Ladies and gentlemen, you've now entered the fight zone because tonight our guest is the reigning, defending NEW Underground Wrestling Fight Zone Champion of the world. But in addition to that, in his match upcoming against Leonidas, I think this time I got his name right. We're going to talk about his decorated career over the past decade. We're going to talk about a number of accomplishments. We're going to talk about even his pro wrestling debut in January for a company that I kind of know pretty well and everybody seems to know. We're also going to talk about his wars with the likes of Jake Matthews, the best on the card, the Born to Battle briefcase holder, and I'm sure our guest is going to certainly respond to one of those all-out war victories that he had mentioned. The likes of Power Surge and D Savage, and boy, they went back and forth. Tyson Spade. Maybe I shouldn't bring his name up after recent history, but also we're going to talk about with our guest tonight the Riot in the Ring. The Riot in the Ring is really one of the more exciting events to be upcoming here, and it's only in 2.5 weeks from now. We're going to talk about that with our guest, talk about his thoughts on some opponents and some outsiders that have decided to make their way into this, and many familiar faces that have been on Sportswire Radio or making their way here. And plus, we're going to talk about maybe the early beginnings of NEW Underground Wrestling and maybe the early beginnings of our guest. And it's almost kind of like if you've watched the past 10 years of NEW Underground Wrestling, it's almost like they had literally started in pre-K with the training wheels on, and to look at to where they are now. They went from puberty to adolescence to now basically they're full thriving adults, and they're obviously one of the premier underground wrestling companies. And we're going to talk about that journey that literally had them start from literally the mat to the playground and to where they are now. And plus, who knows what else in between. I could go on and on and on about our guest. Now, he probably would like me to go on and on about him, but I'll actually have something for him in a little while that maybe will show some appreciation. But before I do that, since after all on Sportswire Radio, we are figuratively and literally all wrestling matters here, and so many of his colleagues in NEW Underground Wrestling have come on this platform and have gotten that introduction that our guest hasn't yet gotten, but I'm sure he's heard of, and also even some of these outsiders that are entering the Riot in the Ring, and even one upcoming this Thursday who's been here and probably mentioned maybe more than anybody else right now, currently in the backyard and underground wrestling scene, sans the destructive Jack Delta. It is time to give our guest, hopefully, that Fight Zone-like introduction, because I can assure you, he has been a decorated champion in the past. Obviously, 3 times he's held that NEW World Heavyweight Championship, but I don't think, with all due respect, in his decorated 10-year career in NEW, and I know also in the TF Cruz North Haven Massacre, he certainly did not get that introduction over there, because Gabe Sayers, I don't think he could afford somebody to do introductions like we do here on this platform. I can promise you that much here. It's time to give our guest, as I've stated, that Fight Zone-like introduction, because we are, after all, in prime time on Sportswire Radio. And as I stated, we are all wrestling matters. So let's get right to it here. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one. One more for the road. Sports show. The reigning, defending, NEW Underground Wrestling Fight Zone Champion of the world. They call him the Campbell in Warrior Justin Abel Sane. champ is here.
That's right, Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you for having me on the show. And with all my sponsorship money that I could give to Gabe Sayers, he could never give me an introduction like that. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the show.
With all due respect, and we love Gabe on this platform, though some I know, and obviously NEW may not love Gabe. I know for a fact you will never get an introduction like that in the TF crew. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you, no matter what you do in your wrestling career, whether it's in the TF crew or other independent promotions, underground wrestling promotions, or maybe even coming out at All Out War 9 here, even in the Riot in the Ring, you will not get an introduction like this one from yours truly and on Sportswire Radio. As a matter of fact, on this platform, when I do the introductions, it's almost like when Michael Jackson would put on the glove or Hammer would put on the baggy pants. Tom Brady gets out there and throws the football in the clutch in the playoffs. Batman, when he puts on the bat cape. I mean, we can keep going. I mean, it's a who's who of people that may do great things. But on this platform, it's the equivalent when I do the introductions. There will be nobody. As a matter of fact, Michael Buffer's got to be, 98 years old at this point? He can't even do the intros. Bruce Buffer, he's hanging on by a thread. Let's not even go there with the likes of Justin Roberts in AEW, Samantha Irvin. I mean, we could certainly leave them out. But Justin Abel Sane, it is an absolute honor to have you. And we would certainly be insane in the main brain, to quote Cypress Hill, if you weren't here on this platform. So I'm going to certainly start off here, maybe from the top, going up to what we'll see this Saturday at All Out War 9, where you put that Fight Zone Championship on the line against a nemesis of yours that has certainly been a rival, year and change, a man that you've certainly seen quite a bit of. And I am talking about none other than Leonidas. So for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, Justin Abel saying, talk about what we can expect from you as you try to keep your championship against your longtime foe, Leonidas, for that Fight Zone Championship.
That's correct, Tom. Well, first thing, to continue quoting Cypress Hill, one can also say I'm insane in the brain. But you got to argue that Leonidas is also insane in the brain for thinking that he's going to challenge for that Fight Zone Championship. Now, we've been together before in the past. Jake Matthews has made jokes before backstage about how Leonidas is like a spitting image of me. And you take one look at him, and you take one look at me. It's almost like looking in the mirror, except that mirror is about 5 years younger, has a good core strength to him, and good momentum going for him. I don't think he can
grow the goatee like you can, though.
That's correct. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen him with facial hair. If he went to a liquor store, he's getting carded 100%.
I think in 20 years from now, he's going to be carded.
I can tell you that without a doubt. But you got me and Leonidas at All Out War. And our challenges against each other go back to when him and BWYE first showed up in NEW. I remember being against him, this fresh-faced kid. And I'm like, oh, brother. Jake really wasn't joking when he told me that he had someone that looked just like me to fight. And the bell rings, and the first thing Leonidas does is he right hands me right in the face. And I look down, and I reach for my lip, and I look right away, and I see there's blood. And I'm like, right, these guys aren't messing around, huh? And we just exchanged right hand after right hand after right hand. It was a while ago. I think my brain got scrambled from the match. I can't remember really who won, but what's important is that moment right there at the very beginning is what I used to capstone the end of that final confrontation. I wanted him to remember that, yes, I remembered that right hand he gave me. I remember how he cut me open in front of the NEW locker room, and not only that, in front of my lady. So,
that's never good. That's never good.
Right. So, at All Out War, I will face off against Leonidas. It's not for the Undisputed Championship this time. It's for my championship, the Fight Zone Championship. I worked so hard to pry that off of Jake Matthews' hands. A championship that can only be contested by submission or knockout. Very different from everything else. Absolutely. When you eliminate pinfalls from the stipulation, does that open up a whole can of difference? And Leonidas is going to find out firsthand just what happens when he's been leveraging these pinfalls and how when you're against a caged animal, oh, you better have good life insurance.
Well, you know what? I certainly can't speak for Leonidas if he has life insurance. I'm sure maybe the coroner will be able to get that information if what you say is true coming up this Saturday. But let me ask you, though, a question. You said something about Leonidas in the confrontation that we this past Friday, and you talked about the fact that essentially that you're going to drop him down the card for good. You talked about the fact that essentially that sure, he was the world champion, but other than that, his run in NEW has been maybe as forgettable as maybe, let's say, some of those, good looks he may sport. But the point is that, he is somebody, if you defeat and say what you're going to do is going to happen this Saturday at All Out War 9, Leonidas is basically just going to be a figment of people's imagination. It's going to be and drops down the card according to what you said with the likes of, I don't know, Rocky Jackson and Prince Chandler. Is that where Leonidas is going after what you do to him? To be the Saturday guy. Jump in.
No, that's all right. I must offer my sincere apologies unto Leonidas, as I did not mean to compare him to the likes of Rocky Jackson or Prince Chandler.
He's dropping him down the card. I mean, obviously, if he's going down the card, isn't that where we see the likes down the card with what he would be?
That's correct. But I wanted to compare him to the likes of those like PA Kid or Kareem Everson.
Right. So you're not fooling around tonight here on Sportswire.
I am absolutely not fooling around when it comes to what I'm going to do to Leonidas. You've seen what has happened to him ever since he's lost that undisputed championship. There's a fire within him when he had that belt. And then he realized once you get that championship belt, all that attention is on you.
We've been talking about that on Sportswire. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've been doing this for 5.5 years, and I have on guys that come on this platform from all over the world, whether it's British wrestlers, some different guys in other promotions. And I always say one of the most difficult things to do in this sport is to go from the chaser to the guy that's being chased. And if you look at Leonidas's run, sure, he held the championship. He won it, no question. But since he was the guy that was being chased, obviously the record, to kind of quote Limp Bizkit, is certainly varied. Results may vary, and it hasn't varied too good in Mr. Leonidas's favor, certainly these past few months.
It's absolutely 100% correct. Everyone wants to be that champion, but once they are the champion, they realize just how much attention is on them, just how much work they have to put in that championship. And I will admit, if they're anything like me, they're going to go backstage after every single one of their match. They're going to look at their match and they're going to hyperanalyze it. They're going to look at every little second, every little millisecond to see where did this go wrong? How can I get that one advantage? And sometimes that self-doubt will cost you in the ring. It cost Leonidas, and that's why where we are now.
Let me ask you this question. I don't even mean to say it, but I'm going to say it because, we're live on Sportswire. We like to do things differently here.
That's right.
Is it fair for me to ask that Leonidas' run as champion, where he was basically, I don't know, a paper champion? He was basically a champion that when you think of some current and prior NEW champions, obviously you were a 3-time champion of the world in your own right. Is it fair to say that basically Leonidas, as an NEW undisputed champion, was basically a paper champion compared to past and present champions? Is that a fair statement for me to bring up?
I think it's a difficult one. I wouldn't argue
we try to ask difficult questions on Sportswire. We do try to do that here on this platform.
That's why you're the man, Tom. That's why you are where you are.
I don't know about that, but I mean, certainly I think it is fair to bring up. Tyson Spade's a man you just saw, and obviously D Savage, another man you have a lot of experience with. We're going to see if he can finally win the big one and kind of cement his career. But when you think about some other champions in the past, obviously you've been there 3 times. Power Surge, a man you have a lot of history with, Jake Matthews. But the point is that when you think about some past or present NEW world champions, Leonidas, where he ranks, shouldn't that be one to ask as a paper champion, is what he kind of ranks up or stacks up, you might want to say, compared to some past and even the present champion?
I will give Leonidas credit where credit is due. for all his fervor, for all his superhero landings he does as soon as he gets inside that ring, when that bell rung, when he held that championship belt, he was every single bit the champion he said he was going to be. He fought like hell to get up to that position, and he fought like hell to keep that belt. When it comes to being the guy, however, I don't. I will say he's at best a transitional champion, and
But that's exactly
it.
You just enabled saying the Cambodian Warrior. You just made my point tonight, live on Sportzwire Radio, where all wrestling matters. Literally just hours before All Out War 9 is to the fact that Leonidas really, at the end of the day, where he stacks up in ranks as an NEW undisputed world champion, don't seem like that he ranks very high. Seems like his title run compared to previous champions, yourself included, doesn't seem like it measures. This is a company that has a 10-year history, a long and storied history here. I mean, it's real in NEW. When we say we're hardcore, when we say we do things differently,
we mean it.
We're not like in other promotions where, yeah, there's a guy that's a hardcore wrestler, but really, if you think about it, probably using Heinz tomato ketchup to show the blood, or, if they're using chair shots, they're probably styrofoam, or if it's weapons, it's probably the ones you see if Toys R Us is still around. But in
they're playing with the Fisher-Price training wheels.
The Fisher-Price training wheels, the water balloons. But here at NEW, it's different.
That's correct.
It's real. We see what's going on in this company. We see the who's who of wrestlers that compete here. But the facts is that from what you're telling me, that he doesn't see Saturday in a match that's basically quote unquote in your zone. You're a Cambodian Warrior after all. And that kind of reminds me of a sport that I've actually covered called Dambe, where one of my Hall of Famers, Luke Leyland, yes, the only person outside of the world, outside of Africa, that has competed in Dambe. You're a Cambodian Warrior, which is pretty close to that. You probably could compete in Dambe. You might want to look it up. The facts is that Leonidas this Saturday, he stands no chance, because when he enters the fight zone, you're going to basically put Leonidas back, maybe not only down the card, but maybe even back on the island of irrelevancy. Sound familiar?
That's absolutely correct. He can go with the rest of the EYBWE washouts like Twisted Jester, Barbarian, because at All Out War, I am going to do what Leonidas so desperately needs, a wake-up call. Yes, you lost a championship. Yes, it hurts, but you need to be reminded of where it all began. Every journey begins with somewhere, and he's going to have to be reminded that his journey has only just begun, and I want him to claw his way back from the island of irrelevancy, from the hands of defeat. Once I beat him so bad he either taps out or knocks out, he's going to have to claw his way back up. And maybe one day, maybe when I'm not champ, the boys will all like that in the back. Maybe one day when I'm holding that NEW Undisputed Championship again, me and him can come face to face and once again fight for what is the greatest prize in NEW history.
Now, I have to bring this up, and obviously we want people to follow NEW in these links above, and I'll certainly put some other links up there for people to see in a little while, but you need this win also, because obviously you've had your own struggles of late. We obviously know you tried to wrestle back that world championship away from Tyson Spade. Now, I'm not going to ask you about that because we're here in the current, in the future, but you need a victory here also, so you can build momentum in your own right, because we know that you're going to be in the All Out War match as well, and you're pulling double duty, and you would like to be three-time winner, despite obviously what Mr. Matthews had said. And I'll certainly put up some of his comments in a little while for you to read off, but he had said you were kind of a two-time All-Out winner with an asterisk, but there's no doubt that you need there's no doubt, champ, that you need a victory here coming up this Saturday, All Out War 9, so you can use that to win and become the first three-time All Out War winner in history. No?
Now, on Jake's comments, he wants to say that win has an asterisk on it. I want to say, what's stopping him from owner right now from saying that I, Jake Matthews, the best on the card, and I'm going to put the NEW Undisputed Championship on myself. What is stopping him as owner from doing that? I'll
Maybe
tell you
because he's a
what,
nice
it's
guy. He's
guts.
a nice. It's guts. Oh, it's
Him?
guts. Okay.
Jake, a nice guy, type of guy that would brutalize a set of twins. Jake's not a nice guy at all. Jake Matthews
Well,
is a
maybe
vicious man.
well, maybe he's a hardcore guy that has a heart a little bit. You know, there are some wrestlers that come on this platform who are really hardcore and are really into death matches, champ. And, you know, they don't have any heart. They don't have any insides or almost any, you know, I guess you might want to say, what's the right word I'm trying to think of here?
Could you
Almost,
almost
let's
say he
say,
has a heart of gold?
I don't know if I quite say that because he technically doesn't have gold at the moment. He has a briefcase. Maybe it's a heart of a briefcase. But the point is that Mr. Matthews is not like most other wrestling promoters slash owners in other places that probably would have done that already.
That's
And probably
absolutely
would have made
correct.
sure that, you know, they would have done, let's say, fill in the blanks. But the point is that you need a victory Saturday to keep your Fight Zone championship to go into the All Out War match and become the first 3-time winner.
And you can even argue in that case to become the first 3-time winner, the odds are stacked against me. Double duty is no easy feat, especially when the second match you're going to be in can go as long as 30 minutes to maybe 90 minutes. I've got to fight for my life against Leonidas. Well, maybe not my life. I think it's going to take like 15 and 20 minutes, and he'll be asleep by the end of it. He'll have a little something before the ring, and then he'll be knocked out at the end. I won't say too much to that, but the point is, at the very end of that, I've got to walk backstage. I'm not going to take my gear off. I'm not going to go to no hotel, no nothing. I'm going to wait in that back for that all-out war match, and I'm going to wait for my number to be called. And now I've got to go in. We don't know who we're going to see. Jake's been on the horn with different federations to get them involved. I don't know who's coming down.
Well, let me ask you about that, though. Let me ask you about that as we are here again with the Fight Zone champion of the world, Mr. Justin Abel, saying the Cambodian warrior. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters here on Sportzwire Radio. You know, I'll ask you about the riot in the ring in a little while, but you talked about the fact that maybe there would be wrestlers from other companies, other promotions in the all-out war match itself. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, I know you'd love to see Leonidas in there and only Leonidas because you're going to obviously, you know, knock him out. You're going to certainly, you know, put a number on him and make sure that, you know, we're looking at Leonidas maybe handicapped according to what you're telling me tonight. But the point is that there could be other wrestlers from other places that don't work in this company and you know nothing about them. And how does that make you feel?
I think it's nice. I like that challenge. I will be the first to admit that in as long as my 10-year career has been, I have been in a bubble for most of that 10-year career where everything around me in this bubble has been NEW. And then I will see these outsiders come in to this bubble and I will identify them as threats, but I will also identify them as challengers too. Because at the end of the day, to call yourself the Cambodian war machine, to call yourself a warrior, you need to have challenge. And that challenge is fighting what is unknown, fighting people you've never met before, people who are going to come into your company, step foot into that ring in the all-out war, and you're going to go face-to-face against them for the chance to face off for the NEW Undisputed Championship at Star Clash. So, to those challengers, I embrace them simply, and I say bring one, bring all. Hell, you could even look at Noisy Wrestling Federation, whatever the hell they're called nowadays. You can bring on those little guys that wrestle with the strings and the turnbuckles, and I'll take them all on. Hell, you could even dive into the old archives, bring back Guns or something from WMXW, which is now defunct, rest its soul. But it doesn't matter.
Yes, we actually brought that up on Sean Jovi's show on Wednesday when I think ironically he and Jake Matthews seemed to have known each other, and because of those days there, he actually was like, "Oh, I think I know you," and then Jake Matthews was like, "Yeah, I think I know you too." So, you know, it's a small world out there. So then, do you get motivated then? Let's say in the all-out war match where you might see these how can I put it? This is a really derogatory of term, but interlopers that want to come into this promotion who don't work here. That motivates you then. I would have to think this Saturday from what you're telling me, because right now you almost kind of channeled yourself into a warrior. You channeled yourself into a war machine the way you
Correct.
spoke. You didn't speak like a human being. You spoke like a machine, the warrior that you are. And it sounds like if there are people that don't work here that come in the match, that you're going to basically turn them into roadkill if you encounter them coming up this Saturday.
That's right. I'll tell you this much, Tom. They're going to go from interlopers to roadkill. And in fact, I really like that you use that word, interloper, actually. It fires me up 100% to know that there's a fact that there's going to be new blood, new breed coming into NEW to try to challenge for the most prestigious prize that we have. They think they're going to step foot into that ring, unproven in our very ring, those four corners, and they think just because they're going to get lucky, just because they're going to throw over Justin, Abel, Sane, myself, or Jake Matthews, or Power Surge, or P Savage.
Good luck with Power Surge.
Good luck with that. I hope that they got like 5 members of their federation ganging up on him, because I'll tell you this much, from all the matches I had, even what I would wish there was 2 of me, because you get hit by him, you're like, oh, yep, this is real. He got me. I'm really against someone that's twice my size, and I really regret getting up this morning. But that's the feeling you get when you go against someone like Power Surge. But
I would
to answer your question,
I think it would take, I'm going to probably make people really get mad at me for this. I think it would take some federations, their entire roster, to actually take him down and overthrow him out of the Rumble.
I would 100% back that. I've worked out with Power Surge backstage. I've worked out with him and Jake Matthews.
As a matter of fact, we had a promotion on yesterday with 3 initials. I'll certainly let people's imaginations run wild. I'm pretty sure their roster, whatever the size it might be, I'm not even sure if their whole roster could actually go in there and throw out Power Surge into the Rumble. I think that's a fair question. Somebody can go at me on that. Could last night's promotion that came onto this platform, and they quote unquote have a hardcore king representing them as their champion, could their entire roster, some would say it's an Isle of Misfits. I wouldn't go that far. I think it's obviously still the mothership of this sport. But the facts is that I'm not sure if that entire roster could actually throw out Power Surge and eliminate him in the All Out War match. I think it's a very fair and a valid question.
I would say it's a little more than fair and valid. I'd say it's 100% true. Power Surge, I'll tell you this story. We're working out with Jake Matthews back then. We're all getting along. He puts 4 plates on my deadlift rack. For those of you who don't know what 4 plates is, that's around 405 pounds. It's been like 5 years since I've done something like that. And he just looks at me judgingly. He's like, go ahead, lift it up.
We had him on here on Sportzwire. And this guy is like, he's a fitness guru. He's competed in bodybuilding competitions, and he's basically a health nut. There's really nobody in the backyard or the underground that's like him. I would even say of almost all the independent wrestlers and some, I guess, even pro wrestlers I've had, I'm even friends with a guy, Vito Fratelli, who was number 390 in the PWI 500. I think Power Surge is actually by far, he could take all of them down. Anybody I've had on this platform, as a matter of fact, because of his size, strength, and abilities. And the point is that he's here at NEW.
That's right. That's 100% right. That man is built like a tank, built like a brick house. I pick up that 4 plates and, oh my God, for 2 days I felt it in my back. I look behind me. I see Power Surge throw on a 5th plate and lift it up with 0 effort at all. And he just shoots me this look that says, go ahead. Try to do 5
that's
plates.
Why he's called a Power Surge, because he's figuratively and literally like a Power Surge outlet, one of those heavy ones here. But I have a lot of comments here, and I want to say hello to a lot of people, because a lot of people want to talk to you, and I got to get through these comments here, because a lot of people would like to say some things. Mr. Matthews predictably would like to say that he calls you a chump.
Hey, look at his profile picture. My shirt's as red as his face right now.
But I can assure you, though, whether you may or may not like Mr. Matthews, his blood is real. It's not from, let's say, somebody's art package or a Heinz ketchup packet that he basically cut open and put some blood there to symbolize that it's something, colorful there. I can assure you that is not anything but real blood from Mr. Matthews, and that's why he is, well, after all, he is the Born to Battle briefcase holder. And some would even call him the best Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer because he's won the most championships. But I'm going to hold off on that. I'm not going to do that to you and ask you that question. But what I am going to do is obviously get to a ton more comments here. Appreciate the kind words. And I pretty much said it myself. There is no other platform. Like I said, go to the TF Crew, you ain't getting that intro. With all due respect to NEW, you ain't getting that intro. You go to any other promotion out there, you are not getting that intro, but here on this platform. As a matter of fact, Michael Buffer at this point can't even do what I do. Bruce Buffer, I think he might need maybe a few more reps. You know, all the other big names out there can't do it. The guy who does the fights for in the DAZN network, the tall guy with the big ponytail, the big hair, he can't even do it, basically. He just sits there like this. I was watching a fight the other day that he was basically doing the intros for. He was like this the whole time. No, we don't do that here in sports. But not only do I do the intros, I give you the hard-hitting questions. I go out there and watch the match. I can talk about it. There's nobody that does it. Like I said, you know, it's the equivalent of Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, the equivalent of Wayne Gretzky. It's the equivalent of, again, all the greats. Batman, you want to put John Wick out there when he was doing his kills. You just put him out there. Michael Jackson with the glove. That's what we do here on Sportswire Radio. And is Leonidas your son?
Only if what's her face Demon Slayer only if Demon Slayer is like the mother.
That would be
that's going to get a little pop back
that
there.
Might work in some countries, I would imagine. I know you're the Cambodian, warrior, the war machine you are, but I don't think that would necessarily work and be possible mathematically based on the age difference. And again, not trying to discriminate. Want to say hello to a man you've probably heard of a little bit around the way, Anthony Steele, and he is certainly
what's up, Anthony.
He's the real deal. He says he's the real deal, but he hasn't shown up yet in any W. So who knows? But he's going to be here tomorrow night though at 10 o'clock Eastern time, and he's probably going to have something real he's going to share with the audience. So who knows really? But tune in. The only reason why Sane is still Fight Zone champion is because he didn't want a rematch. Is that true?
Oh, it says that that's right. Jake Matthews didn't want a rematch, but if you check the sound on my phone, it's saying that I'm waiting for him to announce that he wants that rematch. But I know that he has the Born to Battle briefcase. I know that his sights are set a little higher than the Fight Zone championship, and I respect that. So if you ever win the Undisputed Championship and you want to have one of those champ versus champ merger matches, just saying.
We'll do it, unlike Cody and Logan Paul, we'll actually do it where we'll unify the championships. Is what you're
That's
telling me.
correct. We're 100% do it correct. And we won't have to visit the Japanese forest of death to do it to get heat.
I see. When is he coming to NEW? That's a good question. I'll ask him that tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. I think you've probably heard of this guy. I'm pretty sure this individual would be sort of related or might know a guy named D Savage, a man you've got quite a bit of history with. And I'm sure he is going to have his set sight on winning that World Heavyweight Championship this week. And I won't ask you your opinions on that, but I'll certainly say hello to Mr. D Savage and hope he is doing well. And we've put it out there that if Mr. D Savage wins this coming weekend, and if he wins and kind of passes kind of what he finally would like to say is to get over the mountain, he'll actually join the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So we'll have to tune in and find out. So we'll have to see if Mr. D Savage is back on the platform in the next few days. Stay tuned. Leonidas held the undisputed title for the second longest reign in NEW history, so I don't think he was a transitional champion.
Yeah, but Roman Reigns held the championship for 5 years, and how many matches did he have? So,
well, I have a better one for you. Bob Backlund was champion for over 5 years. Do people talk about Bob Backlund as one of the all-time great WWF champions? His name doesn't come up.
Nope, I don't hear anything in the wind about a Bob Backlund.
Bob Backlund was champion again, one of the longest reigns in history. I mean, he was up there right behind Bruno Sammartino. I never hear Bob Backlund mentioned. I hear Hulk Hogan mentioned. I hear Stone Cold Steve Austin mentioned. I hear John Cena. I hear The Rock. I hear Bret the Hitman Hart, even though his title runs weren't very long. I hear from the likes of the Macho Man Randy Savage, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton, Edge, but I don't really hear of Bob Backlund, and that's maybe is Leonidas the Bob Backlund of NEW? And one of those reigns, by the way, Bob Backlund's second title reign was 2 days. So maybe Leonidas' next reign will be quicker than maybe a Vortex episode coming up.
I'd say if Leonidas decided he wanted to hail from TBW or something, he would indeed be Bob Backlund. I could see it.
Yeah. Well, maybe Leonidas, that's where he should fit more into that company that we had yesterday down south. You guys are up north, obviously. They're down south. Maybe that's where Leonidas belongs. It's no longer in places like the TF crew and places like NEW because we're the big boys here up north. Maybe that's where Leonidas needs to go is down south where he can, maybe deal with, some padded chair shots and some Heinz ketchup packets and some styrofoam shots and,
Might have to
maybe
recover his career down there. Yeah,
Fisher Price like toy figures and maybe where we can choreograph hardcore moves, if that's what they say is true out there. Maybe that's where Leonidas would belong and he would be an excellent standard bearer there.
that's right.
I
Choreograph.
mean,
What's that?
what's that?
Choreograph. What's that?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, you can read your imagination, but the point is that maybe listen, Mr. Leonidas and Atomic Titan, maybe that's where he should be focusing his sights on, not so much dealing with you. But I do have a lot more comments. I'll change that when I cash in. So, but like you said, you pretty much said that you think his sights are set on something else, which I'll certainly say that.
That's weird. I could have sworn I heard him say, and I quote, "I'm not going to cash in for the Northeast title or the Fight Zone Championship."
He did sort of mention that, but I'm going to certainly say, let's give it a pass. He
Yeah.
says he is the nicest guy in NEW.
Depends on his definition of nice, I suppose.
Nice can mean so many different ways these days,
That's correct. Anything can mean anything nowadays. For Jake Matthews, maybe nice will refer to the fact that when you go one-on-one against a man like Jake Matthews, you will rest assured that you will be hit and you will feel like you can be hit. But the bright side is Jake Matthews is 100% the man to take any hit right back. He expects it.
And that's why we say here in NEW, it's real. It's actually when we see the chair shots, when we see the outside moves, when we see the different death-defying, figuratively and literally stunts here in NEW, when we talk about fountains of blood, it's real here in NEW. Like I said, it's real. Like I said, we don't use Heinz ketchup packets here. We don't use water balloons. We don't use Fisher Price training wheels. When we do things here at NEW, it's actually real. It's actually underground, hardcore death match wrestling that's death defying. Ever heard that term before? I think so. And that's kind of why people need to follow NEW. Want to say a little, speaking of people, kind of like your counterpart in the South, Resurrection Pro Wrestling, Mr. Joseph Tibbs. And he says hello, and Resurrection Pro Wrestling's in the house. And obviously Mr. Mac 10, who works there, who was in the Carnage Cup, he made a special appearance to kind of talk with Mr. Matthews and also talk about some guy, Jimmy Controversy, who you shared a locker room with once upon a time. Probably
That's
know
correct,
him.
actually.
Yes, you did. Yep. See, I have a good memory. I got a few NEW faces in for AOW. Don't you worry about it. Since you like how I put the NEW.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I try to, I'm working. The joke is I'm working on a stand-up comedy career because I'm doing such a bad job at this on Sportzwire. I'm saying so many different things that promotions and wrestlers are unhappy with. So I figured the best thing I can do is prepare for the next career, the next phase of my journey, because at least there, I can safely, when I get the hook, all they're going to do is just basically give me the hook. Whereas in this platform, some of the things I've said, I'll have wrestlers that might want to throw me into, thumbtacks with chairs or thumbtacks with tables. Stephen Havoc's case, he's wrestled with glass and tables and TVs. So
do you like tubes?
Light tubes are just almost for you guys, just like a walk in the park. That's a breeze. For you guys, that's like a day off, light tubes. But, you guys deal with toys and, real toys, TVs, glass with tables, thumbtacks with chairs, barbed wire with baseball bats that are real. You guys basically, like I said, light tubes are a walk in the park for you guys. It's a day off, so there you go. Hello, how you doing, my friend? Nice to see you. I know I'm going to see you in the Riot in the Ring, and I am still waiting for Titan to accept my challenge. Well, you know what? He might be a free agent after Thursday night's episode 162 if he does not accept the offer of Manny Cobra to wrestle him for Mr. Titan's Hardcore Championship. And the owner of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, which actually is the real owner of TBW, Joshua Allen, actually said that if Mr. Titan does not accept Mr. Manny Cobra's challenge, the Puerto Rican Nightmare, that Mr. Titan might be a free agent, and maybe then he can accept your challenge, Mr. Matthews, because Mr. Titan will have nowhere to work for, so he'll have to go somewhere, right? But
Jake Matthews, new talent initiative going on here.
Seems like it's working. Want to say hello here to our good buddy, Mr. Nicholas Crenson, who got his own hardcore, certainly death-defying stories that happened in flash before his eyes this Saturday at the IMF's Rage in the Cage. He says, "Good evening, Reverend." He'd also like to point out here a couple different things. And I'm going to pull it up because he's my guest next Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. He'd like to say length of a reign doesn't necessarily mean quality. You can have a short reign, but be a better champion than someone who's had a longer reign. So basically what he's telling us is that what we were saying, Leonidas is basically the Bob Backlund of NEW World Champions.
That's absolutely correct. You can have 50 shows within 50 weeks holding the championship belt, but they can all be the same quality type of match, 3-star, 4-star matches. But I'd say if you have 10 5-star matches in half that time, you easily solidify the reign right there.
And
quality
also,
equals quantity.
Copper Dragon is known for 7 stars. He's now the guy that is the official scoring system of wrestling. You guys have obviously heard of him, and he is actually been on this platform, and he's kind of our version of Dave Meltzer. He's the backyard wrestling ambassador, and he has a scoring system. So 7 stars is what he likes. Although you can actually get more than 7 stars, but nobody has gotten the 7 stars yet. But maybe you'll change that. Who knows?
I'd love to change that.
Mr. Matthews would like to say he's not cashing in on you at the moment, so who knows? He'd also say, Manny Cobra, who is that? Some guy that maybe looks like a clone of Jake Matthews, but is almost like the candy version of it. Basically, kind of like, how can I put this? Almost like there's a term that they used to use in hip hop, like for those that would be hip hop, basically, kind of like basically degrading those that were pop guys that were trying to be hardcore rappers. Manny Cobra, and I love Manny Cobra. He's obviously been on this platform a few times, but Manny Cobra compared to Jake Matthews is almost kind of like, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, kind of like, let's say Vanilla Ice comparing it to like, I don't know, let's say Dr. Dre once upon a time, or NWA, or, maybe today, once upon a time, Drake, want to throw in there, or old 50 Cent. I mean, that's kind of like Manny Cobra. Manny Cobra is basically compared to the likes of Jake Matthews and Justin Abel Sane. I'm not quite sure that I would certainly, with all due respect, and I love Manny Cobra, by the way, but, Manny Cobra doesn't do it as often as we do it here at NEW. To kind of quote 50 Cent, that's how we do. There we go. Speaking of people that are going to be in the ring real soon, my very good buddy, Mr. Michael Christian, who was rocking my Sportswire radio shirt earlier yesterday on Instagram, he says hello. And I am getting the most prestigious championship in underground wrestling, the NEW Undisputed Championship. But that's obviously... That's facts, but certainly you're going to win the all-out war match for the 3rd time, and then you're going to see Mr. Matthews once again, right?
That's correct, and I'm going to have to pray that he doesn't try to cash in on me at Star Clash. Should the best thing in the world occur, I win at All-Out War. I beat the holy crap out of Tyson Spade because I'm used to Fight Zone rules holding me back. But I beat him. I'm exhausted as pie, and Jake Matthews is just going to come blindside me with that briefcase, give that briefcase over to the referee and say, I want that man in a championship match right now. I just hope that doesn't happen at All Out War or a Star Clash for that matter.
Well, we'll have to find out. And I also want to pull up here for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio. If you want to check out the NEW YouTube channel, you can do that right here because we're closing in on 2,000 subscribers. And let's help our friends get there because they're almost there. And also, you have anything you want to say to Mr. Dragon? Do you want me to lobby for you and Mr. D Savage for your match, I believe, several months ago? It was close to a year ago where you guys got a 6.2. Would you like me to talk to Mr. Dragon if maybe he could change that score? Because I actually could do that because in addition to subscribing to your guys' Patreon page, I subscribe to Mr. Dragon's Patreon page. And I can pretty much say on certain authority that he certainly is a supporter of mine, and he enjoys what I'm doing on Sportswire Radio. As a matter of fact, he says that basically I am the only place really covering the backyard, the underground, the pros, and the independents. And if you like, I could maybe certainly try to, quote-unquote, politic on your and Mr. D. Savage's behalf. But I really wouldn't want to do that because I don't really like to politic when it comes to, obviously, trying to lobby and curry favor with friends of the platform. But only if you want, I could try to politic there for you. But, that's just what I'd like to point out there.
I think you got a good point there, Mr. Tom Bryce. I'm happy with the 6.2 stars that was given for our match. If you look back at how far D Savage has come, He came from basically nothing, knowing almost nothing in the ring, faced off against me, and we made it look absolutely freaking phenomenal.
Hey, he's been the guy that's gone toe-to-toe with Power Surge. He's the guy that, you know what, right now, and I know he's technically not a rookie anymore, but he's a guy that's
Oh,
come a long
absolutely
way.
not.
He's
He
come. We
has
talked
come
about it last week.
so far.
We were on the show last week, and we spoke about that. We spoke about how far he's become, and his life is flashing before his eyes coming up this Saturday. And, you know, I mean, obviously, we'll see if he can make history and win his first world championship. I mean, we'll have to certainly find out and tune in on the NEW YouTube channel. You like the plug there. You like that transition,
That's
right?
right. You have to find out at All Out
that.
War this Saturday.
Nobody does the cheap plugs like here on Sportswire. I mean, you know, Mick Foley used to do it once upon a time, but I think since Mick Foley is obviously resting these days, we can kind of take over for the pros, because after all, we are the pros here on this platform. But that's where you can follow NEW and watch All Out War 9 and watch all the highlights from Justin, Abel, Sane, and the likes of so many others. And also, Mr. Savage is happy with the 6.2. So
I 100% back him on that one. It was a phenomenal match for what we knew at the time back then, and we just strung it all perfectly together. Not a single moment of dead air. I was really happy with the match.
As a matter of fact, I think the rating scale is anything over a 5.8 is actually pretty exceptional, as a matter of fact. Mr. Dragon.
Boom! There we go.
So to be fair, I actually have to give you the endorsement. There's no politicking on that. He actually spoke about it here on the platform. So I can actually tell you anything over a 5.8 is actually very good. So
there we go, Savage. I'll count it as a 7.0 in my book.
Well, you know what? I'm sure Mr. Dragon will review one of you guys' matches again, because he knows how much I've been promoting you guys, and he knows how much we've been talking about NEW here in this platform. So I'm sure that Mr. Dragon will certainly look at some of the footage here, especially of All Out War coming up. And I did want to ask you, and what would it mean to you to be a 3-time All Out War winner?
It would mean the world to me to be a 3-time All Out War winner. The first time I won the All Out War, yes, Jake Matthews was right. I only faced off against 3 opponents. Those 3 opponents were no slouches back then, though. Zach Daniels did me a favor, put me against those 3, but he wasn't doing me a favor because they were tough opponents. But that match in 2016 was for at the time, the world title. I think it was WXW still at the time, or AVWA.
You won the 2nd and the 4th All Out War.
That's correct.
You win 2 in a span of 3 years. You certainly proved it wasn't a fluke the first time, but you've obviously not won it since. So you've got to have motivation to try to win one now, because you've had a drought. You know, obviously Jake has won twice, but he's won more recent than you. Zero is the most recent winner. Obviously, Redux is always certainly in a position of power. So
Redux has been on a tear.
They have been on a tear. You cannot deny them. But you've got to have motivation, because it's been dry for you these past several years. So you've got to have that incentive to show that, you know what, yeah, I won 2 in 3 years. Matthews was on here talking about we should have an asterisk to the 1. You come back and win, though, in the 4th. But since then, you've had a goose egg.
You know what? I'm thinking about it more closer, and maybe Matthews is right. Maybe there should be an asterisk on not one, but both of those wins, because both those wins were for the world title, the biggest prize in NEW, and those All-Out War wins were for my championship that I came out with. So when the stakes are at the highest, when the most prestigious prize is at its biggest, Justin Abel Sane's always rise to the occasion and taking back home the gold. But to win this All-Out War, to be a 3-time All-Out War winner, to have a chance to face off against Tyson Spade in the most prestigious show that we have, Star Clash, that would mean the world to me. That would be the, how do I say it? I don't want to say climax. That would be the top of my 10-year journey. Yeah.
Some people think of climax in different ways, but I understand your point, because we're a family station on Sportswire.
That's right.
And I do have kids that actually watched and listened to the platform. So I'll certainly give you a pass on that. But let me ask you, though, this question. And obviously the All Out War, the match itself has certainly come a long way, as well as the company has. How does it make you feel, in all seriousness, to see the growth of NEW to where it was, let's say, when you won the 2nd one, to where we are today?
God, to see the growth of NEW has been nothing but absolutely surreal. From being a platform with under 300 likes, like you had highlighted it best when we had first started. We were on the Fisher Price training wheels. We were wrestling at mats at whatever backyard we could find. We would go knee deep into the woods just to find a nice suitable place just to wrestle.
And the
And then
footage looked like it was almost from like the 60s and 70s, and it wasn't that long ago. And you
it
guys are
felt
here
like
now. I mean, you guys were, I hate to say it, you guys were almost like Triple L, the big fat L with the big bad bald patch, and the guy that calls himself C2K but probably couldn't even fit into TBW. And you have guys there. Skulls calls himself a wrestling promoter, but you guys did it. You guys stuck with it, and we're talking about you guys. I would say pound for pound is maybe the best underground wrestling company out there.
And I absolutely back that 100%. We have come so far from where we have started, wrestling from the park to the woods. Me and Rain Man had an hour-long wrestling match in that park to the woods, going back and forth, nailing each other. He F5'd me. I landed on the ground. My toe hit the ground, and I'm like, oh, I feel that one, huh? But we've gone from there to now, from I think it was 2017, 2018 onwards, we have our own wrestling ring. We have our own group. We have people that come down.
You guys have, and I want to say it, if you don't mind me saying this, I'm going to say it because you know what? Me with a microphone is pretty deadly these days, right? But as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportzwire Radio, is your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce. I want to say what you guys have in terms of your core, your locker room. I think it might be the best in terms of just the camaraderie that you guys have of any company. There's some companies that come on this platform and you could tell, all right, you hear different things. You hear whether it's certain politics, quote unquote, or certain people can't come on because of certain sensitivity things that are said, or other things where the owner is the champion and where it goes. The owner is a guy that was an indie guy that couldn't make it. And obviously he's got his way of doing things, and it's kind of in the Roberts rules that should be thrown out the window. But you guys really have a true bond between all of you guys. It's a true family atmosphere. You guys are such a diverse group of great people. And I truly think that, to me, the key of any success, anything in life, it doesn't matter whether it's a wrestling company, a business, whether it's a relationship, whatever it might be. I'm always a believer in you got to have a camaraderie and a bond with the people that you're close with. If you have those things, anything is possible. And that's why you guys might have been at one point, maybe you might have been in the same breath as the likes of the triple big fat L. But you know what? To kind of quote Van Halen and Sammy Hagar's vocals, this is what dreams are made of when you certainly go out there and continue. And you go out there and put the work in and put the effort in. And the results certainly have shown that you guys, again, went from one place to another. And I think it's in large part because of the camaraderie and the relationships that all of you guys have had over these past several years.
I will say that you are 100% right about that, Tom. You look at the level of commitment that each member of NEW brings to the table. Like, this all started 100% in 2014 with Jake Matthews with a vision. He wanted to bring back WXW, and we evolved that. We took that from just pads on the ground to a bona fide wrestling ring. We went out of our way to purchase our wrestling ring, stock it up in the yard, and create our own thing. And we couldn't do that if we didn't have the brotherhood that we have. See a fourth wall. I'm gonna have to pretend I like Jake for a minute, but oh my god, I don't know how I'm gonna sleep at night pretending I like him. But none of this could not have been accomplished if it wasn't for the drive, 100% the vision that he has, the push that he has, the ability to rope in these different federations. I will 100% say that Jake Matthews is the vision behind our brand, and the fact that myself, I'm able to add as co-owner of the NEW. Power Surge is able to add.
That's a real shoot there, ladies and gentlemen. You said something. Speaking about breaking the fourth and fifth and sixth walls, you just said something that I think some people out there did not know, that you, quote unquote, are one of the other owners, quote unquote, of NEW. But you know what? If it makes you feel better, don't feel too bad because yours truly, Real Shoot, is also an owner. I am one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation. So from one owner to another, don't worry about it because obviously one businessman can talk to another businessman and still
That's
have a
absolutely
civil
correct.
conversation. So don't feel too bad, my friend.
That's absolutely correct. And for all of you at home that are wondering why two rival federation owners right here aren't going neck and neck, Tom Bryce nailed it perfectly. Businessmen can have civil conversations because this is what we do best.
I am
Well,
sure one of my co-owners is watching this right now, Omen Black, and he probably would like to throw me into like a table full of thumbtacks after the way I described that. And he probably would like to put me in his companies, the IMF. They had a Rage in the Cage where all their matches were in a cage. I'm sure he is chomping at the bit to actually put me in that cage for everything I said just there and basically just put me through the ringer. I just want to put that out there. But how you doing, Omen? I know it's your show. Hope you're doing well.
you say that as Jake Matthews is on his way with the sledgehammer to my house right now. What are you doing to my program? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jake.
If it makes you feel better, Obey was here like 4 months ago with a gun.
Oh, Obey. That is a individual right
I know
there.
you shared a locker room with him. I know you know him very well.
That's right. TF Crew, what was it? January 15th. I had the opportunity to share the locker room with Obey, meet him. Oh, that is an individual right there.
Yes,
that is a man.
Everybody tells me that. Yes, and I've interviewed him. So yeah,
You've seen firsthand what he's about.
I saw it firsthand. In fact, I saw
it
so much in it firsthand. I actually had people message me that either watched the clip on Instagram or watched the show on YouTube. It was like, they're like, who was that guy that you had interviewed? And I was like, oh, that was just this guy, Obey. And he goes by another name sometimes. And he's kind of just, in his own world. He's almost kind of like, I guess, the Dennis Rodman of hardcore and deathmatch wrestling. I mean, he can kind of, go out there and just who knows, really. I'm not going to get in his way, though. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I watched him versus Angel Santiago, the Puerto Rican Prince, live, and I'm like, yep. Should I ever have the chance to go against Obey?
Santiago had a better time in celebrity boxing than with Obey.
After seeing what Obey put him through that and watching Angel barely cling on life to win, I told myself if I ever come up against Obey, I'll try to get 1 or 2 hits in.
You might be the Cambodian, warrior, war machine, but compared to obviously Obey, I would have to say Mr. Justin Abel Sane. I would certainly might want to say pick your battles. And yeah, what a show that was. You had Mikey Anarchy and Brax. You had some guy named Jimmy Controversy in Hardcore, who only Jimmy Controversy put a syringe through Hardcore's lip, and Hardcore lived to tell about it. And
that's right.
Yeah, that was an interesting show there. Yeah, some interesting individuals there.
First time I ever seen something like that live. A man puts another syringe through his lip, and I'm just like, oh, wait, is that a syringe?
For
it
those
is.
Guys, it's almost like, meh. They look at, hardcore. I actually, Real Shooty, I asked the hardcore about it. I was like, oh, so how was it? He goes, it was no big deal. For those guys, it's almost like a walk in the park. For them, it's a walk in the park. Mikey Anarchy came on this platform and showed his back, and look, you could connect the dots with me. For those guys, Brax, Doc Holliday, for those guys, it's almost like, just any other day.
Him, Hardcore, Mikey Anarchy. I had the opportunity to work alongside him at ECH, doing ring crew for him. I have nothing but respect for these guys.
There. Oh, good old Elm City Hardcore.
That's right. These guys, oh my God. It is, no matter what the circumstances, they go 150%, and I have nothing but respect for them.
That's where Atomic Titan should go and wrestle. If he becomes a free agent and he doesn't accept what he may have to face in Tennessee, maybe that's where Atomic Titan should go. I mean, for the audience out there, would you like to see Atomic Titan, if he's a free agent, go to Elm City Hardcore? Because I'm sure that in ECH, with those guys and the things they do, Atomic Titan could fit right in. He's a hardcore king after all. We certainly respect and bow down to the hardcore king. I'm sure that it'll work and go over very well over there in ECH. If anybody wants to tell me otherwise, let me know. But maybe that's where Mr. Titan should go.
That's right, Atomic Titan. And I'll say this: you tour at ECH, you better damn sure come through to NEW. We're only 1 state up, and we'll give you a run for your money every single time when you step in that ring against us.
He actually might be running literally.
Well, I'll go on I-95 and make sure to pick him up at some point.
I know I-95 very well. My uncle is actually from the great state of Connecticut and Massachusetts, so I actually know these places very well. And I have a lot of comments though, so let me get to these comments here because I could talk to you all day, but the people seem to want to talk with you. Also, you were in all-out war match you were in an all-out war match with two other people, not three. You were the third individual in that match. Congratulations, Mr. Matthews. Is obviously he's having fun at your expense, but we'll certainly move on. Want to say hello to our very good friends over in the IMF. Omen Black wants to come to NEW. The people and the company down to let the boogeyman show up one day. Mr. Matthews answered it for you. He says that he's always welcomed. And also, you guys are always welcomed in the great state of Iowa. Have you been to Iowa, by the way? Have you been to the great state of Iowa? You know, the home of Slipknot and Seth Rollins. And, you know, have you been to the great state of Iowa? Because, you know, it's a wonderful state.
That's right. Home of Slipknot and Seth Rollins. Slipknot, Psychosocial.
Maybe I
It's
guess
all my...
Becky Lynch now quote is half home of Iowa, right? Because isn't she married to Seth Rollins? Can we say that on Sportswire? But so maybe
I would say so, yeah.
I would say that counts.
Now
right?
residing in Iowa. The same apartment. They wear the same clothes anyway, so
I think
sorry that they live there.
He's probably the one that wears the pants in that relationship, but I'm going to certainly move on from that comment. But the point is, you know, maybe you could certainly, you know, be invited to the great state of Iowa.
I would love to go down to Iowa. It's a beautiful state. The mountainside states are just so beautiful. So I would love to go down there and see what they got for me.
Absolutely. Listen, Field of Dreams. They had the Yankees and White Sox play there a couple years ago. You know, why not? I mean, listen, it's all good. But Mr. Matthews wants to say our product in 2014 on gym mats was so much, I repeat, so much better than Triple. Yes, we know it was better than Triple W, but you had a humble beginning. I mean, now we're obviously not going to say that Triple W is going to become NEW. I mean, Triple W becoming NEW, I don't think that'll happen in this lifetime. You know, we'll just take the big fat L and just continue to be Triple L. I mean, after all, you know, one guy said he's a promoter, but I think the point is that Triple W had humble beginnings. Well, NEW had very much humble beginnings, and look at where NEW is in Triple W. Well, they might be having some humble pie, or isn't a group called Humble Pie? Maybe they'll be having that. But thank you, IMF. You may be seeing me later this year. And speaking to people from the great state of Indiana, he is the first real wrestler. He is a two-time Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer. His name is Justin Parsley. And don't be confused. He really isn't one of the Beavis and Butthead characters. He doesn't look like one. He has a bigger forehead than that, but obviously he'll be on the platform, and he's also always here with us, and he was here last week. And how you doing, Justin Parsley? Justin's actually one of my favorites, actually. Justin, if I were to have a second host on the platform, if I were to have a guy that I would have a wingman, I think it'd be Justin Parsley. James Taylor would be very close, but I think Justin gets my humor a little more. So I think Justin would be that perfect. I would be like Johnny Carson. He could be my Ed McMahon, only with a lot more hardcore wrestling.
Breaking out the Johnny Carson. There we go.
I had to do that, but I'll break character for a moment. I love Sane. Without him by my side since 2014, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think I pretty much said most of that. We would never like Triple W. Yeah, because you guys are obviously NEW now, right? So you can't be Triple W because there's only one. That's correct. W. But in fact,
I have a license plate and a baseball bat ready to go.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of people here who is from the great state of Alabama, also a longtime yarder. He's the general manager for the Alliance Wrestling League. They come into play in a few minutes, and I'll tell you why. Mr. Hillbilly Tilly, who always says it best. True backyarders do it for the love of this sport. These guys do that here and some. Worlds collide. Good line here. And Mr. Black says that I'm an elite employee. Well, some would say who really signs the checks, but different conversation for a different time. But you know, let's move off of that because I mean, now I'm gonna get the shot here. Who paid for some of the belt? But obviously, we're moving on. But you know, I want to talk to you, Justin Abel Sane, because I want to talk to you about this riot in the ring. Before I know, take a deep breath. I know you're live on Sportswire. I know you're obviously a warrior, a war machine, but it's okay. Take a deep breath. You're live on this platform. You feel alive here on Sportswire. You're alive. Almost think about who was
right. We're alive.
Gym class. We had like they tell you to take the deep breaths, and they would go like. I remember when I was in gym class one year, they'd play like this song of the exercise, and I would like sit there. And I'm in good shape actually, so I always took it, you know, close in. I always played sports. I've had a career in politics where I've been literally running away from the voters, running away from the public, you know, for most of my time. I'm good. I'm in good shape.
I'd run from them too, just saying.
I certainly have, but different conversation for different time. But, you know, I want to ask you because you have this thing coming up, the riot in the ring. And speaking of the Alliance Wrestling League, there's a wrestler there that just wrestled there a couple of weeks ago who wrestles in another promotion, but was referenced here, called Resurrection Pro Wrestling. And he's going to be coming up here in this Riot in the Ring in about 2.5 weeks from now on June 1st. And he's going to be here Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time to take his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And his name is D'Angelo LaFlame. He's kind of ballyhooed as this backyard underground wrestling darling. He's kind of like the next Jack Delta, and he moves like Jagger, and he's as tall as a glass of water. And, he goes out there and does things that, very few people do for what he's brought to the table in a short amount of time. He is going to be stepping in a different element. He has wrestled in some great companies, the Alliance Wrestling League, Resurrection Pro Wrestling. He's even been in that company, in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. But he's obviously never wrestled in anything like the Riot in the Ring. Justin Abel Sane, you were a war machine. You were a warrior. And I was curious about what you thought about some of these outsiders, and especially like a D'Angelo LaFlame, who is certainly our backyard and underground wrestling darling at the moment. And I was wondering what you thought about him and if you'd like to meet him coming up in the Riot in the Ring on June the 1st.
D'Angelo Flame, I will say this. Yes, your flame is burning bright as all time. You are burning hotter than a furnace on a winter night. Yes, you may be compared to the next Jack Delta, but what you aren't is the next Jake Matthews. So, when it comes down to it, when the money's to our mouth, whether or not you actually choose to legitimately show come June 1st at Riot in the Ring will remain to be seen. But should our luck cross and we come face to face, you will find out what it's like to be taken to war by the Cambodian war machine, Justin Abel Sane, if we share the same round robin and roster and all that good stuff.
Wait. You said something, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to, because you talked about the fact that maybe Mr. LaFlame won't legitimately show up. Do you think that Mr. LaFlame, he might back out because NEW is nothing like the waters down there in Tennessee or even in Alabama? I mean, with all due respect, I love Resurrection Pro Wrestling. I love Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, and I love the Alliance Wrestling League. But the waters are different down there. Like I said, it's real. That's here correct. In NEW. Do you think that Mr. LaFlame, maybe he has a change of plans and maybe decides, you know what, maybe I want to go somewhere where, I can be a little more safer and I can go out there and, feel like I can tower above my competition and not have to worry if I can be, a small fish in a big pond, or deal and play with the big boys, playing in that sandbox in NEW? I mean, you think maybe that's a legitimate concern?
I'll say this much. I think of Tennessee. I think of nice mountains, nice weather, nothing. Tom Bryce, you are from New York. You know how the weather is up here in the Northeast. It is brutally oppressive 1 minute, and then you're outside right now. It's muggy as all hell.
It's raining again. It rains every day in New York. Seriously. Right.
And you're giving us some of that rain up here in Massachusetts tomorrow. Should D'Angelo Flame decide that he likes the nice scenic weather in Tennessee, you know what? No disrespect. I understand you couldn't handle the Northeast cold to begin with, but we will show him, D'Angelo Flame, just exactly what it means to step foot in the ring against some of NEW's darlings who hit hard and tell stories.
You think he can hang in NEW in the Riot in the Ring?
He's got the accolades to back him up right now. I think he has
the accolades aren't the same here. The Power Surge, yourself, Jake Matthews, D Savage, Tyson Spade. You can say what you want about Tyson Spade, but there ain't nothing like a Tyson Spade anywhere else. Rhea Silver. I mean, we can keep going. I mean, Leonidas, he was the world champion. Say what you want about Leonidas. We already talked about the fact in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, he'd easily be the world champion, some would say. I mean, how about Zero? He's only the last all-out war winner. I mean, we can keep going, but D'Angelo LaFlame, can he hang with these guys? I mean, these guys, he's never faced anybody like them.
All those names you listed off, with the exception of Zero, all NEW Undisputed Championship holders. D'Angelo Flame, like I said, his flame burning bright as ever. I think the opportunity exists for him to hang with us. He might not make it too far in the Riot in the Ring. He might be a round one type of guy because when it comes face to face with us and he finds out just how stiff style it is in there, he's going to get
Didn't
a
I
wake up
say it's
call.
real in NEW? So like
That's right.
in other promotions where, hey, you hit me and I'll go like this. I'll go like this, and you won't get hit.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'll punch you, and that punch may not be a real punch.
That's right. Here in NEW, we thrive off that full physical contact. I want to say it's full force, full knock the tar out of the guy in front of you. But we thrive off that physical contact. In fact, you'll watch matches between me and Power Surge, matches against me and Jake. I'll throw a forearm at them, and then the first thing I'll hear them shout is harder, and then they right back to me. They want me to
you
feel
guys,
that intensity.
it's almost like you guys are the UFC. I mean, when I'm watching you guys, am I watching UFC? I'm not basically looking at something that's choreographed, more or less. Yeah, hit me, and I won't really hit you. Or yeah, I'll take that chair shot, and don't worry, there'll be styrofoam on it. Yeah, listen, I'll take something. I'll take a bat out, but it'll really be more plastic than a wiffle ball bat. The facts is that it's real. We don't use water balloons in NEW. We don't
That's
use
right.
toy soldiers that we get in the 99-cent store here in New York. We use real figures, real weapons. We use real thumbtacks. We use real glass, real barbed wire, real steel. We use real 2x4s, real
That's
metal.
right.
So I'm just saying.
All those instruments meant to deal damage, none of the blood packs attached to them. Everything you see in that ring is 100% real.
So we'll see if Mr. LaFlame will want to come on and obviously be at the Riot in the Ring. Still, you say it's a legitimate thing. I'm going to say he does still show up because Mr. LaFlame has certainly been showing up, and he's been making quite a name for himself. I've watched him in many promotions. I've watched and seen what he's done in Alliance Wrestling League. I've certainly seen what he's done in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling in his home promotion, Resurrection Wrestling, where he's the current internet champion. So I'm looking forward to that. And Mac 10 has trained him. So apparently, if Mac 10 gives him the endorsement, but speaking of people that I would love to see in the Riot in the Ring, maybe cross paths with you, speaking of the TF crew and speaking of hardcore legends and hardcore veterans, you want to say anything to Doc Holliday?
Doc, my man, how you doing, brother? Good to see you on the platform. Doc's a good man.
I need to get Doc Holliday onto Sportswire before June 15th. I need to get Mr. Holliday on the platform.
You do. That man is very unique when it comes to his weapons of fun, when it comes to a hardcore match.
I'm aware. He's actually been on the platform a few times. He's been in the comments, and I always say hello. Mr. Holliday.
Me and him have shared a few drinks backstage. I've watched him prep, and I don't want to know what goes through that sick mind sometimes. I had the luxury of reffing one of his matches in ECH the other week. Got some live music out of it. It was pretty good, actually. And just being there, watching him go to town against hardcore, that was a surreal experience. I have never seen a man.
I can see that.
Yep. I have never seen a man think to strap on candy to an electric fly swatter and use it as a dangerous weapon like Doc Holliday has. You talk about improvisation, you got to bring Doc Holliday into the mix. Shared a locker room with him, been able to watch him go to work. Should our paths cross inside the ring, I respect him a hell of a lot. And because of that respect, I won't show him any mercy in the Riot in the Ring if I face him. And I wouldn't expect anything less from him.
Well, I'm sure that kids don't try this at home. And some of the things Mr. Holliday and Mr. Hardcore did to each other at Elm City. But what I will say is that Mr. Holliday, I may have to give him the opportunity to speak on this platform before a few different things come up, only if he would insist. He is, after all, Doc Holliday, and he's a true hardcore legend, a real hardcore legend, a real hardcore legend, a man that has, truly been the definition of death-defying. Let me get to a few comments. First of all here, I believe this is Mr. Elman Black. Iowa may be the home of Slipknot and Rollins, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I didn't say anything negative about that. I mean, they obviously had decorated careers. But Tom, most importantly, it's the home of the popular monster Soldier GP and the boogeyman of the Midwest, Omen Black and the Foundation. Yes, it absolutely is. No question about that. And maybe we'll see you guys in other places coming up here. Best team in all of wrestling right now. Well, Redux is doing pretty well right now. You've had your problems with them. And
about to say that.
Redux has been really good right now. I mean, they've got briefcase holders. They've got championships, the Northeast title. They've got the hardcore title. Jake's got the briefcase. And speaking of people that obviously hold a microphone and do a pretty good job at it, he's also been a legendary wrestler. His name is the Nemesis James Taylor, who sometimes is kind of my other wingman. He'll probably be here tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern time. He is the host of the Nemesis Sessions. He is the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation. And also, he is a legendary wrestler who's done a few hardcore matches in his decorated career. He says hello, but he should have said hello to us. Maybe there's something to that. Speaking of people, though, that I'd like to give a big shout out to, and I'd love to see him in NEW, but I don't know if that will happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Mr. Jack Delta, who, by the way, I think I can say this, Mr. Delta, he's coming back to the platform very, very soon. And it could be as soon as next week. And he's here and he says, good evening, gentlemen, and all Sportswire audience. And the last time I saw Mr. Delta in a ring was earlier today. And he did a walkout. And actually, wrestling companies do walkouts now because one of the companies he works for is ROW. And the wrestlers walked out, apparently. So, I obviously never saw that before. But he's done a wrestler walkout. So I guess let's not get any ideas in NEW. But I'll ask Mr. Delta about that. And yes, I would love to see the open doors come from Mr. Holiday. I want to say hello to some people from our friends over in the Wrestling War Zone out there from WWZ all the way in the great state of California. And that is Mr. Trifco Kid himself. And I have to get you on the platform. We have to make that happen. And thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't yet, please follow our friends over at the Wrestling War Zone, the Wrestle War Zone. They're in the great state of California. They're run by my very good buddy, Mr. Darrow Johnson. They're out there not too far from San Diego, California. They've always got a number of things. As a matter of fact, I share a lot of our shows on the Facebook group. So Darrow has been a big supporter of mine for over 2 years, and I'm doing great. And you have to come on my platform, Trifco. So I hope you do that here. But, obviously I have only so much time with you, but I was hoping for your sake, as I'm about to almost choke on my own who knows what, Mr. Justin Abel saying you might be the Fight Zone champion. Those that might want to cross you might literally be like Cypress Hill and Sane in the main brain. But I was wondering if I could present you something, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire, to kind of recognize you as something. And, only if you insist, though.
Tom, I figure you went all this way to make something for me. I might as well go and accept.
You want to accept? You sure?
From the bottom of my heart, I accepted what you will present me. I'm ready, willing, and kind of nervous.
You've been acknowledged as the Cambodian warrior of Sportswire Radio. Congratulations.
Woo! That's right. The Cambodian war machine of Sportswire. Oh, wow. Thank you, Tom. It's like I told you. It's like I've told Jake. Sometimes it's been quite the 10-year journey, and I will be the first to admit sometimes I have not looked back. I just keep looking forward to everything that we've done.
That? What? You've had a 10-year career, but I'm just curious for the audience. Why haven't you looked back? Is there a reason?
I've always been the type where I will continue to march forward, continue to look forward to what comes ahead. When my matches are all said and done, I continue to look forward to what's next for Justin Abel Sane. What's next for NEW? Because when the time comes to hang up the boots, sit at home, bask in the sunlight with a nice beer in hand, I feel like then is the time to look back at all my accomplishments, everything I've done. But until then, I'm going to say I will continue to keep making an impact. All these wrestling federations are now starting to sprout out. I want to continue having a hand, making all this scene in the Northeast. We are on to something in terms of underground wrestling, and the best is yet to come. And that is why I choose not to look back, because the future is bright for all of us.
I do believe in that. I do actually believe in the fact that the future is endless, and I always believe in a rising tide will always lift all boats. So I'm a personal believer in those things, and I couldn't agree with you more. The best is yet to come. So I always live by that. The best is yet to come. Sure, there's been great moments. Sure, we have ups and downs, peaks and valleys, but the best is yet to come. Let me ask you, though. I know you've had a lot of moments in your career. I know you've done a lot of things. Maybe your best moments are yet to come, but if there were one or two moments to stand out most in your career, what would they be?
Oh, man. One or two moments that stand out in my career. As a wrestler, you're always going to be traveling up and down. Me, Jake Matthews, even Darren Crow, Power Surge. We've traveled up and down these roads early on in 2018 and 2019 to get to the different venues, wrestle alongside Mikey Blackheart inside the wrestling rings, and I believe it was Michigan.
I know Mikey Blackheart. Mikey Blackheart is wrestled in a number of different promotions, and most recently in ROEW. He just defeated, as a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, Jason Storm. Yeah, I know Mikey Blackheart. Again,
That's right.
Small world.
Mikey is no slouch when it comes to facing him in the ring.
Seen him in Omega Wrestling, Omega Michigan Wrestling. I've seen him in a lot of promotions. Sure, he's a veteran. Yep, absolutely. Know Mikey Blackheart well.
That's right. And one of my favorite stories will always be how Mikey was adamant that he could outdrink Jake Matthews and myself inside of a nice king-sized hotel room in I think it was a Hampton Inn, Holiday Inn inside Michigan. We were traveling, we're getting some rest, and all of us, Jake Matthews rented out this nice suite for the night. We ordered pizza, we ordered wings, we had lots of drinks that were of an adult nature, and Mikey's just standing there. We're gonna wrestle the next day, but Mikey's like, yo, I can drink all you guys under the table. And I just remember the look me and Jake gave each other, and we're like, yeah, huh, you're really gonna do that, huh? So fast forward about 5 hours in the night, Darren Crow's in the bathroom throwing up. Mikey Blackheart's under a table just crying for mercy right now, and I look, and there's Jake Matthews just sitting there at the conference room table, just like, any other takers? Anyone want to say that they can party as hard as I can? And I'm just like, I'm gonna go back to my hotel room, because I had rented a separate room with Darren Crow because I needed a place to sleep, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back to sleep now. And this is
something tells me that Andrew WK, whose famous song is "Party Hard," that Mikey Blackheart couldn't as party hard compared to you guys. So that's got to be a moment that stands out because of the bond, the traveling, and just being somewhere with other guys. So that's got to be a moment that you remember.
That's right. And the one thing I'll say about that story is for 2 hours, I was laying there in that hotel room, and I swear I could have heard knocking in my dreams. Turns out it was Darren Crow trying to get back in the room because he left his key in there. And I'm just like, oh, what? Someone's knocking? So we had a good time that night. But it's like you said, that sense of brotherhood. We're all traveling on the road. We're all tired.
A lot of guys all over the place. And I know with the British guys that come onto the platform, it's big about the travel. It's about those car rides and, going to the venue and helping. In some cases, it's not as prevalent, I think, in the Indies, maybe more so in other places here, at least first over there in the UK. But, guys there would talk about pre-planning their matches and going over it, getting to the show early. And here, I know a lot of guys talk about putting the ring up, getting there, and that bond. And, I watched something with the IMF and their most recent show, Rage in the Cage, and somebody had put something, I don't want to say who it was, unlisted on their YouTube channel, and kind of showed some of the, not the IMF channel, but a wrestler's channel. And he had showed kind of some of the things where people getting to the venue early, and there was kind of almost like a moment that they had putting their hands up and basically kind of in a way, showing that there's a bond and such. And I think that those are things that you remember most. It's not so much about what you do in the journey, it's how you get there. And I think that as a wrestler, our journeys are different than, let's say, athletes or professional athletes, because in a professional athlete's world, they get pampered, they get coddled in a lot of ways. But as wrestlers, the journey of an independent wrestler.
Right.
Oh, I know, because I've interviewed a lot of professional athletes. They've come on my platform. I've interviewed a lot of college basketball players. I'm friends with them. These guys are all, to be honest, I'm going to, probably, again, have another CM Punk moment. These guys get pampered. These guys get coddled. I mean, even they get pro contracts. At the end of the day, I mean, what we go through here with this sport of wrestling, where about all wrestling matters, our independent guys, our pro guys, our yarders and undergrounders, to me, I mean, it's, nowhere near the treatment that guys get let's say they're going out there and playing professionally and playing some rinky-dink league and quote unquote, or college basketball players who get a scholarship. It's just, that's why to me, I think sometimes it's about that journey. Maybe that's the moment that stood out most. Was there one other moment that maybe stood out most? Maybe getting the ring for NEW. That's a big moment. Obviously, that's the big transition. That's the moment where you guys go from a company that, which again, nothing wrong with that. There are some companies that come on from this platform and they don't have a ring. They wrestle on trampolines or they wrestle in, some forms of outside. They have followings. There's nothing wrong with that. We're about all wrestling matters here. But you guys maybe getting that ring, maybe that's a moment to remember because that kind of signified in transition that, you know what, NEW is here to stay, to quote Korn.
I will agree with that. There was, in our previous iteration before NEW, we were renting rings to have these big super shows. Just another East Coast super show. We had the ring set up in Chris Wade's backyard. That was one of the moments where I was like, this is real. This is actually happening. And we have all these different people coming from different parts of the Northeast, meeting with each other for the first time ever to put on a biggest show. The third show we have, and Jake is going to yell at me for butchering this because I think it was AFS, but I won't. I will say that it was AFS. When the booker of the previous iteration of NEW showed up at AFS late, that was a realization that we were like, something's got to give, because this man is going to show up late, and the matches that are going to get cut from the show to make time aren't going to be any of his matches. It's going to be from guys like me, guys like Power Surge, guys like the previous man did not believe in, because I'll say this, he didn't believe in big guys like Power Surge, myself, Jake Matthews. He didn't give one hoot about how we did. So that following September, that is when it began. That was like, I met at Jake's house and I'm like, we're going through with this, right? We nodded our heads. We put the order in. I remember 6 weeks later, there I am at Jake's house. This giant 18 by 18 wheel truck comes in, backs in his driveway, drops the ramp. There it is. 18 by 18 wrestling ring that they had a sign for. And they told us, well, we're not getting paid to unload it, so get to work. So the first act that me and Jake had owning that wrestling ring was unloading the truck to get it inside the shed. And what would become the home of NEW Underground Wrestling. And you fast forward all these years, setting up that ring, countless weekends in, countless weekends out, cracking jokes with each other, just the speed that the ring setup starts to get, because once you started, it's like, okay, I got 4 turnbuckles, I got the post, where does the wood go, etc., etc. Now I want to say we've got it down to maybe a 10-minute setup, 15-minute setup. It's efficiency. We've learned from the countless amounts of times we've had to set up, we've optimized it, and just that growth we've had from having the wrestling ring, having the chance to learn, has just been substantial, and I've appreciated every single moment of the journey.
I think those are things, when I hear that, ladies and gentlemen, that's why we support and really believe in the term all wrestling matters. Because what you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, is that NEW, Underground Wrestling, is that definition of a true American small business story that succeeded. From a company from where it was to where it is and to where it'll be. And to see the work and to see the effort put in by Justin Abel Sane and Jake Matthews shows that anything is possible. Just keep plugging away, keep working, and a rising tide will always lift all boats. These guys have done it. And if there's anybody out there that maybe falls on black days, to kind of quote Soundgarden, obviously Chris Cornell, it's his anniversary of his death, by the way, so I kind of thought that'd be a good way to tie it in. But the facts are is that there are bad days out there. There are days that we have our moments, but these guys kept going. These guys, to quote John Cena, never gave up. And look at where they are now, and look at where they will be. And that's why the month of June, by the way, we're recognizing NEW Underground Wrestling on all Sportswire radio platforms and giving you guys a month. So that's why the entire month we've dedicated to you guys. I will give you guys something later this month that will kind of obviously signify that. So you'll get a formal, certainly, piece of paper, kind of what you got there, Mr. Sane. I can assure you it won't be a Cambodian warrior thing, but you will get something to signify that. We'll do some other things in the month of June to recognize you guys. So I want to put that out there. So obviously, congratulations to you guys. And I think the future is only going to go up from here. I've got about 15 or 20 more minutes here with Mr. Justin Abel saying, of course, he is the NEW Fight Zone champion of the world. He'll be in action coming up here at All Out War 9 this Saturday. He'll be putting up his championship against Leonidas. He'll also be a part of the All Out War match itself. It is the 9th one, and he has won it twice. He won it in the 2nd and the 4th All Out Wars. We'll see if he wins it again this year. Obviously, the current winner is Zero. He is a part of the group Redux, and we'll see who wins it. Obviously, Justin Abel Sane has made his case that you would be insane in the brain not to pick him. So we'll have to find out here. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And I'll be here again tomorrow, 10 o'clock Eastern time, with Anthony Steele, the real deal Anthony Steele. And he'll have something to say, and I have no idea what it is. I literally have I have no idea what he's going to say. So that'll be why you want to tune in, because anytime he's with a microphone, people seem to want to tune in. But Thursday, I'm here with D'Angelo LaFlame, who you said maybe he won't show up to the Riot in the Ring, but I have a feeling that I think he is going to show up, but I'll ask him anyway. I'll ask him to see, if you're right and I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong all the time, Justin. So
I'm hoping I'm wrong, honestly. I'm hoping he will show.
You know what, Justin? I tell you what, I'm wrong all the time, so maybe you know something that I don't. But let me ask you, though, as we get toward the end of the show, what are your goals for this year in 2024 in wrestling?
My goal should be the same for anyone else in wrestling. I'm looking to make an impact in terms of the industry as a whole. I've been adamant on supporting all these upstart crews. I've sponsored TF Crew happily because I feel like it is nice that we have a scene in the Northeast for wrestling.
I love the TF Crew, by the way.
So I want to sponsor.
I love TF Crew. Absolutely. Love TF.
Yep, TF Crew, Gabe Sayers, they deserve all the accolades. They are working on something nice. Not quite on par as NEW, but I digress. But I am happy to see that there's many groups that are out there that are trying to establish themselves. And I am happy to assist in any way. Like I said, I assisted with ECH as part of their ring crew. It was phenomenal in ring crew, might I add. But just doing those little things, helping these little groups get off the ground and proving that the industry does have a place in the Northeast, regardless, because it's like you said, all wrestling matters, and all these little groups that pop up show that all wrestling does matter. So my goal this year, keep helping them get off the ground, keep pushing NEW to these new heights, and who knows, maybe I'll be NEW Undisputed Championship. Sorry, NEW Undisputed Champion at the end. I know Jake's going to be laughing right now when he hears that one, but maybe at the end of the day, I'll be NEW Champion, or I might be able to wrest the reins of ownership away from Redux and bring NEW into the promised land.
Ooh. But yeah, I'm so glad, though, that you talked about different things like that, especially here in the Northeast. Obviously, I'm in New York. I'm in New York City, and we really don't have much of really any, backyard or underground wrestling for obvious reasons here, because in New York City, you really can't have a backyard in most places. But it's great that you guys are obviously doing that here in the Northeast, because I think that the Northeast wrestling scene, in some ways, in the yard and the underground, lacks obviously substantially versus, let's say, those in the South, those in the Midwest, for different reasons. I think that's great. And obviously TF Crew is a company that I've obviously done a lot of work with in the past. And Gabe, although he might be an interesting guy with the egg rolls, D Savage, I certainly still support his cause. And obviously he put together a great show, and he has another great show coming up on June the 15th. And I don't know if I'll see you there or not. Maybe you'll buy a ticket as a fan. Who knows? I hope that you get to go and watch the show, because again, Mikey Anarchy's wrestling Angel Santiago, and Rad Dad Radley Belmont's going to be there. Jimmy Controversy's going to be back in the house, and Jeff Nova's wrestling Gabe Sayers. I mean, he'll home about that. I'm sure Leonidas is going to be there, because he's also a part of the TF Crew.
That's right.
And, who's who of other people will be there. So I hope that if you'd like to go buy a ticket, you actually can, and go out and support the TF Crew. And I'm about all wrestling matters, just like I've subscribed to your Patreon page, just to subscribe, because it all adds up, and that's what I'm about. So I look forward to seeing you in these different places, and I hope to have you on this platform more. But before I ask you one or two more questions, do you have any final words for Leonidas before All Out War 9?
Oh, Leonidas, I will say this. Jake Matthews will say that you're my son. I may say that you're one of my fellow brothers that I fight alongside. But come all out war, I will take you straight to war and I will show you the true horror as it is practiced in Cambodia. You will be brought down to the dirt. You will be beaten senseless, maybe bloodied, but you will be shown why they call me the Cambodian war machine and the NEW Fight Zone champion.
It sounds to me like in Cambodia, you guys don't drink water, but rather blood almost.
And one may argue the water supply might have been poisoned by a previous regime, and we're still recovering. But
I actually did hear something like that. I have an uncle that was in Thailand like 30 plus years ago and like almost didn't come back alive. So that's not far from Cambodia. And one of my buddies, Josh Bailey, who I know is not listening, so I can say this safely, went to Mexico before COVID and got sick from the water. So yeah, he went and was like, "Yeah, I'm going to go to Mexico and I'm going to drink the water." And he drank the water and he got sick. And he obviously was lucky he came out alive. So I really believe in those things. But speaking of real quick about blood and fountains of blood, I had a guy on, Stephen Havoc, who's showing up here in this riot in the ring on June 1st. And any impressions on him? He's a guy I actually know very well. I've seen him also in upstate New York. He's wrestled in different places, wrestled some guy with 3 initials that probably couldn't even hang literally in Tennessee backyard wrestling. And I won't go there, but obviously Mr. Havoc is an accomplished guy. He's kind of had a second life in hardcore wrestling, sort of similar to hardcore in that sense, but probably a little bit more under the radar versus hardcore, because obviously hardcore has wrestled Madman Pondo. He's had a victory over Jimmy Controversy. He's obviously just wrestled Doc Holliday. He's become like one of the guys, and he's coming back on my platform in 2 weeks. But anything you want to say or have any impressions towards Stephen Havoc, who was here on Sunday for the Riot in the Ring?
I will say this. If Stephen Havoc is 100% who I think he is, we've had great interactions together when we've met in the ring. And I've got the feeling that when he comes down to Riot in the Ring, those interactions will play off perfectly. He's going to be a bit of a menace to deal with, and I look forward 100% to see if he gets the unfortunate luck of the draw to go against myself inside that ring. And I'm going to hate if he has to go out in the first round because he just had that luck that he has to face me, or he's going to face someone like D Savage or someone like Power Surge or Jake Matthews. But he's a threat. Him, D'Angelo Flame, the Interlopers, I would say they're all a threat. You never know what to expect.
He's the one. But now, Mr. Havoc, though, you're pretty confident showing up, though. You think he's definitely showing up, though, Mr. Havoc.
I get this strange feeling in the bottom of my gut that I will see him. I don't know how to substantiate it, but I just have this strange feeling. And the feeling that I won't see people stems from the first Super Show we ever had in NEW's previous iteration. So ever since that Super Show, that's when I told myself, you got all these people that say they're going to show up, but whether or not it comes, the gavel comes down, the judge says he's ready for the defendant to take his stand, whether or not they step forward and make the call, step forward into that ring in NEW on June 1st will remain to be seen. But when it comes to Stefan Havoc, I get this feeling I'm going to see him.
He's showing up. Listen, I know Stephen Havoc. I know him. I've watched him in the RWA. I've watched him wrestle. I know what he brings to the table. He's almost kind of like a silent assassin. I mean, he might be somebody that's, who knows what's in his mind. He's a Havoc icon. I mean, he's definitely a guy that I'm going to pay attention to, and sounds like so should you. And as a matter of fact, I mean, he might be nothing from nowhere, and he might be no one at all. But that might be the guy that might actually be the biggest somebody of them all. I want to ask you this before I get to closing thoughts. And there are certainly guys that have been talked about recently. Some of them have wanted to come into NEW. The likes of, I'm sure you've heard these 2 names. One of them was already mentioned at the beginning of the show, but the other name was the headline and the main event, Aaron Blaze, who certainly had sort of his dealings with his conversations with Mr. Jake Matthews, and obviously Anthony Steele, the real deal, who's coming back here tomorrow evening on Sportswire Radio. And I was wondering, do you think that, speaking of those interlopers, those outsiders, certainly guys that have maybe been on quote unquote big platforms and other promotions that, maybe not, again, not as real as NEW, but should those guys, you think, want to step in and cross paths here at NEW, like an Aaron Blaze, who's obviously been another backyard wrestling darling? He's been in many feds, XCW recently, UWA, he's back, and he's got his own promotion, YBW, and Anthony Steele. I mean, who knows where he shows up. But do you think that those two guys, those two particular outsiders, those two interlopers, you might want to call them, could they hang here at NEW, you think?
I think they would want to give it a try. I know in Aaron Blaze's path that
he was here 2 weeks ago. We spoke with him. He was here.
That's right. There was an intention last year to bring him in that was upset by some complications that had arisen that made it impossible to bring in him. But this time, those complications have long since gone to the side, and I am hoping that, who knows, whether it be the riot at the ring or sometime in the future, that Aaron Blaze can certainly make a blaze at NEW.
Interesting.
And when it comes to Anthony Steele, I will say the same as well. I would like to see him inside an NEW ring to prove to him that here at NEW, we hit hard, we tell stories, and I want to showcase to him just what kind of style we're about here in the Northeast.
And I'll tell you this much, ladies and gentlemen. I know in the case of Aaron Blaze, he went to another promotion last year. I think if he had a do-over, he would have went to NEW instead of that other promotion with 3 initials. I think Mr. Blaze has pretty much confirmed that here. So if he had a do-over, I think he would have ended here in NEW. And boy, would the wrestling world have been different. As for Anthony Steele, I mean, I'm with him tomorrow, so I'll ask him this question, and I'm sure he'll address it. So Anthony Steele, who the heck knows? Let me ask you one more question. I could ask you so many different things, but what do you want to say to the people that haven't yet watched NEW, to why they should tune in and why they should go on the journey and not get in the way of a Cambodian war machine?
Folks, take one look at NEW, and we'll tell you this much. We're very much the alternative product in a contemporary world. There's not many theatrics you're going to see. It's like the New Japan Pro Wrestling of the backyard. We hit each other hard. We have the intention to tell a wonderful story. We're getting all these highlights that want to join us and see what we're about. And we're going to prove, without a doubt, why we hit hard, we tell stories. And if you have the unfortunate circumstance of coming against the Cambodian war machine himself, you will be shown exactly what it means to be taken to war. And I will say this much. NEW, I want to say, is the ones that have kickstarted this revolution, so to say, in the Northeast. You have different types of groups starting to pop up now, but it all started with that one group who had the grit, they had the intensity to buy that wrestling ring, they had that drive to put that up, they had the drive to promote it, and now look, 2024, different groups popping up. These different groups want to work together and establish one giant scene. It's like the birth of the territories again.
And I think you know what? And that's what we're doing here on Sportswire. We have this thing called the All Wrestling Matters World Underground Championship, which is supposed to be crowned at this event, Summer Bash, from July 5th to July 7th. And I am actually a part sponsor of it. And Sean Jovi, the resident rock stars, put this together. And, I don't know what your plans are between the 5th and the 7th in the good state of Ohio and Bremen, Ohio. But I'm sure that I could certainly say that you would definitely be welcomed and maybe want to, whatever they decide to do with Mr. Jovi and his cohorts in the IMF and the DKW do in the Summer Bash to figure out who will be that champion. But maybe that could be something on your horizons as well.
July 5th through the 7th. We'll have to see what's on the calendar for that, but I would certainly like to go visit the state of Ohio again and to wrestle down there. I've been down in the state before. Some people say it's a barren wasteland, equivalent to that of Elden Ring. I think it's a beautiful state with a lot of openness.
Yep.
That openness is very much perfect for NEW to come in, set records, and tear up the territory.
You know what? I always say at this point, I love all 50 states. I love all the different countries in the world because literally I seem to know and have listeners out there, and I'd love to see NEW compete up there with the likes of Omen Black and Soulja GP and Matthew Forsaken and Darkron and Certainly the likes of Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, and Nicholas Crenson, and anybody else out there that might want to compete. Anthony Steele, our coach Chris Craven. I can keep going and going and going. But the point is, maybe we'll add the likes of Jake Matthews, or maybe Justin Abel Sane, or
That's
maybe
right.
even the likes of Justin Parsley and Tommy the Man Merriman. Maybe I don't know if I could have said anything there. How about even the likes of I don't know, Power Surge, D Savage. I don't know, maybe Andrew Lovelace, the be all end all. I mean, I can keep going. There's a lot of other names out there. I mean, I'm probably not even allowed to say, but that's why I'll let Mr. Jovi know about this. And maybe before I let you go, maybe the next time you come back on this platform, your career gets cemented by joining your co-owner, quote unquote, in NEW, Mr. Jake Matthews, into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. How does that sound?
It would be an honor to be in the Sportswire Hall of Fame. I see there's multiple classes that have made it in there. I would be honored to be in one of the classes. I know I'm gonna work my butt off the next few weeks,
I
few
don't
months,
think you have to work your butt off. You've been there for 10 years. Listen, we have guys like Skulls and C2K in the Hall of Fame. Let's be honest. And Raven Rage is in there. I don't think you have to really work that hard. I mean, I'm sure you'll kick Leonidas's butt. I'm sure maybe you'll have a very good shot at winning All Out War. But I think your resume certainly speaks volumes. And if you'd like to come back on sometime in the month of June, I'm sure we can arrange that and allow you to take your place in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So I would say just don't change anything differently. You can make the Hall of Fame.
I appreciate that, Tom Bryce. I'd love to be back in the month of June.
You will be back. You will be back.
I feel like you can never stop being a learner. I feel like there's always so much more for me to learn when it comes to the world of wrestling.
There is. You always learn. I always tell people all the time, it was like I used to play guitar. And my dad was a drum teacher, and he played a lot of instruments, mostly the drums, but he tried to play others. He always said there was always somebody out there that was better, more talented, or more knowledgeable. So no matter what facet you're in life, you can always learn. You can always absorb knowledge. At the end of the day that you stop learning is the day you die. So I truly believe that, from now until no matter how long you live, which hopefully in your case will be like 700 years because you're a Cambodian, warrior and war machine, that you'll live for hundreds of years. The point is that you can always learn. There's always somebody out there that can help you and apply the knowledge that will make you who you are. So I agree with you. So
that's right. 1,000 years from now, when the Cambodian war machine is defrosted, I hope to continue to pass on the knowledge that I've gained over these 10 years.
You're in Massachusetts. I mean, Ted Williams is frozen still. They're still waiting to thaw him out. I mean, if they could thaw him out right now, he'd probably still at 370, but that's a different conversation for a different time. So you never know. Listen, there are people out there that do believe in that, and maybe you'll be one of those guys. But I know one thing, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Abel Sane has definitely proven why. He is a true war machine. He has proven why that he is going to continue his reign as the NEW Fight Zone champion. He has proven why he has got a very strong case to win the all-out war match for the third time and the first one in over 7 years. He has also proven that he is going to be a major player defending the inside of NEW in the Riot in the Ring, which is going to take place in less than 20 days from now. And the next time you see him on this platform, he'll take his place in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And maybe even I heard him talk about that he'd like to maybe enter in this thing called Summer Bash for an All Wrestling Matters champion to be crowned. I don't know, but all of that here and some, you want to follow Mr. Justin Abelson. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you'd like to plug, share, or say, my friend? And I'm looking forward to round 2, and hopefully I don't get hit as hard as Leonidas in the second round. And I'll certainly make sure that in my case, I'll step away from you because I can certainly see that kids don't try this at home when professionals like yourself are out there. And I turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Well, I can promise you this much, Tom. I won't hit you like I will hit Leonidas.
You can hit me pretty hard because I'm sure some people that actually watch this show and listen would say, just do it. Do it. I was even saying, I'll make you laugh when I said Happy Mother's Day to my mother. I actually said on the air, it was kind of funny. Even Mr. Havoc was laughing. The way I speak and the way look at having me as a son. It's almost like dealing with Ric Flair when he's out there and, he's getting thrown out of a pizza place. And, the way I say things on this platform and talk about wrestlers who have big, bad balls soul patches and talk about guys who have nursery rhymes and guys that go out there and I say all these different things. So I'm sure that there's plenty of people that would say, Justin Abel saying, just do it, and hit him a lot harder in the face than you did Leonidas on Vortex, and just do what you do best in the ring. I mean, forget about what you've done to the Surge or the Savage or the Spade, anything else. Just do it, and it'll be one for all of us here in the wrestling world. And but I digress, and I'll let you go back to your closing thoughts.
So I'll say this then. At All Out War, I will pretend that Leonidas is the Reverend Tom Bryce in the other corner, and I will take Leonidas and I will show him what it's like to be against a bona fide Cambodian war machine. He will be put to war, and he will be shown that pinfalls were his only salvation, as I will not only make him tap, but I will make him knock out, go to sleep, and I will retain that Fight Zone Championship. You can find out all of that on NEW and its platforms. Just shoot us a follow on Instagram and YouTube down below. I probably should have headlined that by saying you can find Justin Abel Sane on my Instagrams at Sanity's Throne right there. And then I will say you can find NEW on all the subsidiary platforms. Get us up to 2K. A lot of good things are coming when it comes to the Northeast wrestling scene. We're going to be the headliners of that. All Wrestling Matters. So make sure you follow the Reverend Thomas Bryce. He is doing some great work to elevate all the wrestlers that he knows. I really appreciate the chance to be out on his platform. He's given me the chance to really express myself. I didn't think I'd be like this, but
yeah, you were like, I don't know if I'm going to be good at this. We were thinking about this for days. You're like, I don't know, maybe. And
I've never done something like this.
I don't know if I can do this. And then it was like you actually went longer than most people go on the platform. So, you're like the Energizer Bunny. You can keep going and going and going. But, I mean, I think you did pretty well. And, maybe you could take over, my shoes. Maybe we'll have you be the owner of Sportzwire Radio. Maybe we'll have you become one of the co-owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation. You can take over, my shoes and just do the intros and interview all these wrestlers because you are a wrestler. And I think that might bring up more views, more engagement. So maybe that's the way to go in the future. So consider yourself on the list of people that might replace me. Who knows? But you did a pretty good job, the point is.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it, Tom. Should Redux and NEW find cause to fire me as the co-owner, you know what? I'm glad to know I have an alternative place
you have a job. Yeah, you have a job
other than unemployment.
Well, I mean, I can tell you on Sportswire, we do pay higher than the unemployment line these days. But
yes!
I have no doubt that you won't be on the unemployment line anytime soon. I have no doubt we're going to see you at All Out War. I have no doubt we're going to see you coming to Riot in the Ring and maybe some other places that maybe seeing you as a fan out there for the TF Crew Death Row show, wink and a nod, because I'm going to have some coverage for that coming up real soon. But congratulations on all the success. I have no doubt that the best is yet to come. I am looking forward to seeing NEW reach even further heights than it has already have gone. And I have no doubt that NEW will continue to be the place that might very well be, pound for pound, the best backyard and underground wrestling company up there. It's right out there. It's right there and at the top of the list. And I have no doubt you guys will continue to be one of those top, like I said, pound for pound, backyard and underground wrestling companies. And congratulations on all the success. Looking forward to watching you this Saturday and seeing you next month. Take your place in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame alongside your co-owner, Jake Matthews.
That's right. Once again, Tom, thank you for having me on the show. It's the back end of individuals like you and everyone else that's been pushing us forward to the heights that we're at now. I'm looking forward for everyone to see what we've developed and what we're pushing forward. And it's like we've said multiple times, the best has yet to come. Look out for it.
Amen. Amen, ladies and gentlemen. That was Justin Abel Sane, our NEW Fight Zone champion of the world. You will see him coming up at NEW Underground Wrestling's latest premium show. It's called All Out War 9. It takes place this Saturday. They'll also be filming the Riot in the Ring on June the 1st, which I'll have more coverage for Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time with D'Angelo LaFlame, who has been announced. And as far as I know, he's entering in it. I'll ask the question to Mr. LaFlame if he's still entering in it. And I might even ask Anthony Steele a question about that tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, because Anthony Steele is going to be here as well. So I'll have to ask him that question as well. And maybe he's a backup replacement, but who knows? Let's not even go there. Let's go worry about tuning in. For more information on Sportswire Radio, check us out anytime on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We're on sportswireradio.org, our internet radio station. Please support our friends at NEW on all their platforms. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. And together we will win. And let's support our friends over at NEW. And thank you so much. And I will see everybody here, because my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am not a player, but I can assure you that I get more plays than any other wrestling talk show host shown around the way.